I'm Sally Knopp, and this is Energetically Speaking. I'm with Lorenda Carr, one of my fan favorites here, who's not only the psychic medium extraordinaire, but she's also a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner, as am I. So basically, we are going to be talking about some of the amazing things that we've seen as quantum healing hypnosis practitioners and how it might apply to you. Hi, Lorenda.
Thanks for having me back on.
Of course.
I always love it when you call me, be like, I've got an idea. We should talk about
Yeah, yeah.
it.
And I'm thinking, our fans, they're all into Dolores Cannon. And we've been practicing as practitioners for quite some time. And I thought it might be kind of fun for those listeners that do follow us, what we see on our end and the amazing transformation with our clients from when they first come to us and when we're done, and the follow-up that we get, maybe a week later or whenever. And you've got some amazing stories yourself to tell. So let's start with that.
Oh gosh, so many stories. I've done so many of these in the last several years, and the first and foremost, the healing aspect has been astounding for people, whether it's physical healing, whether it's mental healing, spiritual healing. Just it has brought so much awareness. And I think that's key. You have to be aware of where something's coming from before you can actually fix it, right? But I've also, in this process, I've learned things through clients' subconscious that I had no idea was a thing. So I grow. And actually, what's funny is I do set the intention when I first started doing this work, only bring me people that not only can learn from me, but that I can learn from. And so every single client that I have teaches me something new. It's incredible. But one of my favorite go-to stories, I've got a couple, but one of them is my fear of fire client that came to me. It was in my early days of doing this work, and she was just terrified of fire, couldn't even sit, like couldn't be around there, and there was no reason for it. There was no history there. And she's like, this has to be past life. Turns out we regressed her. Yes, it was definitely past life. And so we go to move the subconscious and ask for that fear. Where's the root fear? We see it. Okay. We figured out where it comes from. Is it necessary? Does she need that fear? Was this something she needed to transition into this lifetime? And the higher self said, nope, absolutely not. Can we remove it? Sure. We'll wait. You let me know when you're done doing that. And then, I get a call from her. It was like a couple weeks later, and she's like, "You're not going to believe this. I went to a bonfire, and my brain knew that I used to be afraid of it because she used to have visceral reactions, like her body would like freak out completely. Which I guess if you were burned at the stake and as a witch in past life, you probably would." And she said that her brain knew that she used to be afraid, but she didn't have any kind of reaction to it. And it was a game changer for her. And that's just one of so many stories of healing. And it's been a wild ride, even for myself, having you regress me when in my early days, and having to go through that process of deep diving, and me being able to get beyond some things that I didn't even know were still a thing. And so for my own journey, I've even seen the benefits of it.
Yeah. And for some people, they think, well, I can't be, regressed. And I was one of those. In fact, I kept getting in my own way. And when I was going through training, one of the people who was my mentor and helped me go through the process was a 12-year veteran. And it took her 7 times to get me relaxed enough. And and so we have our challenges when we're doing this. And most of the time, when people would come in and they would be kind of in my camp where it's really hard to get relaxed enough, only because my anxiety levels at that time were so high. And it was just like, how do I dial myself back? How do I stop the chatter in my head enough to just to kind of follow that process? And through this whole experience, we learned so much, and we can touch on that later. But what I found was so interesting is that I had one of my own clients come in, and I asked her, "Why are you here?" And she said, "Well, I'll show you." And she lifted her pant legs, and her legs were swollen and purple. And like, oh my goodness. And instantly I heard inside my head, it's milk allergies. And it just sort of flowed out of me. Oh, milk allergies? Oh no, I've been tested for that. That is totally not it. The doctor said it wasn't that. Well, in the meantime, she's been eating milk, 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 and her legs have been getting more swollen, more itchy, and uncomfortable. Well, when you're itchy and uncomfortable, try doing a guided meditation. It doesn't work real well, you know? And yet I knew in my heart that's where it was, but I can't argue with her, that, oh no, I pretty much think this is it. Because she was absolutely convinced that because it didn't show up on the blood work that she had this sensitivity, it didn't exist, but it did exist in the spirit complex. And you and I both know that we're working in the mind and the body and the spirit complex. So even though an allergy may not show up in the physical or the blood work, I think they call it, or the RAS test back in my day, it can actually be there in the spirit complex. And so going back and doing a guided meditation with her, we went ahead and did it, but it was so hard for her. She was so uncomfortable. So basically, all we did was I had her close her eyes, and we just began to work only in the imagination. And she kept saying through the whole process, this isn't working. You know this isn't working. I said, well, your eyes closed? Yes. Is your imagination working? Well, of course. But it's scratch, scratch, Um, this isn't working. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just go with the imagination for now. And she just started laughing and chuckling to herself. She goes, isn't it funny? I just have this vision of being this old curmudgeon man in the last turn of the century. So she took me to like New York City around 1900-ish, and she was dying, and a banker, and that this woman was trying to nourish him. And he described the physical of this woman handing him milk, and she or he swatted it away. She in this lifetime, he in that lifetime, swatted it away, and the milk went everywhere. And all this woman could do was be kind to him. He didn't have any family, he had no friends, just nasty, hateful human being, knew it, had no regrets of it, just, it was Scrooge to the tens, right? And so this woman kindly cleaned him up, got him fixed up, and just said, you'll be fine. And just was truly an angel. And then he died. And so it became this reminder of what life was about. Well, what did you learn? And, she went through the whole thing of what that experience would have taught her if she would have had that experience. Because she wasn't really buying it, because it was just her imagination playing out. And so, when she got up, I was new to QHHT. When she got up, she was like, well, scratch, scratch, itch, itch. It didn't do much. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I won't even charge you. She goes, no, I'm paying for your time, which I was grateful for. And so we parted ways. But a week later, her legs had returned to normal. I was mind blown at the process. It's just crazy what happens.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And that is pretty wild. And going back to your you talking about people who have a hard time going down in the process, or because of fear getting in the way. One thing that has helped, and I don't know that we've really talked too much about this, is a lot of times you will work on people and moving that fear and those energies out before they come to me. because you don't really practice full QHHT anymore. So you're like, okay, go see Lorenda. But you do all this energy work for other people. And when I get them, before we're even done with the meditation, they're gone, they're under, and they're the people that were doubting that they would even have it.
It seems like my screen
It
froze.
is.
Can you?
It's frozen.
Okay, but can you still hear me?
I can hear you. Mhm.
I am so sorry about that. It's been crazy. If there is an interruption, I apologize to the listeners. I'll try to get that edited out, but technology is a little difficult for me. Um, so we'll just go with it, it'll be what it'll be. But to go with what you were saying, yeah, so COVID really kind of evolved my QHHT only because we couldn't see people in person. And so you still want to help people, right? And I became trained in the emotion code body code by Dr. Bradley Nelson. And I began to clear trapped emotional energy, removing heart walls and limiting belief systems and all of that. And that became actually transformational because when people begin to get their trapped emotional energy, their baggage out of the way, I began to notice that the questions for their quantum healing hypnosis time actually changed. So people would send me a list, when we were able to meet with people, like a list of questions that they had, but then we couldn't see them. So we went ahead and we cleared trapped emotional energy, and then they felt a whole lot better, but they were still curious about the QHHT. And so then I said, well, resubmit your questions. And there they were. I could compare them, and they were very different. Like it went, I don't know, everything just sort of changed. It changed everything. And I felt like their experience, one, they were able to get to the theta state easier. And two, their experience that they had compared to what I was getting when I first started was exponentially different. And that's what I called you and said, oh my goodness, look what's happening with my clients when I move their energy first. When you have a client, if they're open to allowing energy healing in advance of and see where it takes them. I think we were both mind blown by that experience.
We were, I mean, I know I was like, because I've said many times, like, I didn't believe in the woo-woo stuff for a while. I wasn't sure. Not that I didn't believe in it. I just didn't understand how it worked. But then once you started, we started seeing those results. And even with me, again, you'd move energy out, like those limiting belief energies, those emotional energies out of me. Then we would do the regression, and holy cow, a whole different ball game. I felt a difference. So I can at least attest to that. When you work on my clients before I see them, again, huge difference. And what really the result of the difference is not just that they go under, but like the higher self, they get a lot more details. The higher self is able to come through loud and clear. There's no getting in the way of it. And so the messaging happens a lot easier. And I can get through 3 pages of questions that the client and I have discussed, because they go under so quickly, they drop into the live so quickly, which is bam, 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 bam. And then we can move on to the healing part of it. The getting to the root cause of what else they have going on. And also to the point where, by you doing moving that energy and identifying some of those root causes to begin with, you're getting those initial layers out. You're getting the initial layers. So then we can get in there and do the deep dive stuff that they need to experience, have removed, because that's part of the QHHT or any kind of regression experience, is that it's not that you're just having somebody do it for you. You are experiencing the work. So with what you and I do as a team, it's nice because they can get out of their own way energetically, set aside those emotions, plug in and have an amazing experience and see the results. They can witness and feel the results in the process and then going forward. Yeah, I feel like the reviews have been very, very good after when we've done them the way that we've done them. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I always kind of tell them when we're starting to talk about it. When if you do it without energy clearing first, it's much like taking an old car in that's got gunked up with oil, never had an oil change. Maybe the engine's not running real good because there's not a lot of oil there. And so it sort of just gets gummed up and doesn't work as well. And so when you're going into a full QHHT prior to energy clearing, then you're kind of having to peel away those layers one at a time just to relax. Again, I was the prime candidate 7 times to, just to relax enough to go down. That's ridiculous. And yet here my monkey mind was always jumping in the way. And so when we find people who were like me in that place of constant being the cat hanging from the ceiling, everything's fine. That sort of feeling. We know automatically that it's going to be a little bit more time consuming to get them to relax enough in order to get to those layers. And so even when I'm doing this work, when I'm doing remote energy clearing, a lot can take place. But oftentimes when I'm doing this work, there might be a piece that's left. And that piece that's left is something that person actually needs to make a connection to for themselves. And so that's what's really nice about marrying the two modalities, because I can get the outer layers out, like you said. But when there's something that the person needs to actually connect to, but they're sort of in their way and they can't see it, by having a QHHT, they can get to the place of relaxation a lot easier without all the monkey stuff going on in the background. And they slip in, and now you have more time to work with them in the theta state versus spending the first few 1 or 2 times, just getting them to the point of relaxation. I would say it's if you are it can be quite time consuming if you don't kind of get the pre-work done up front. And the feedback I get from the clients that have worked with both of us has actually changed. It's like, whoa, I went down so easy. And Lorenda was amazing and she got right to the point. It's like, actually, you got right to the point. She was just asking the right questions in the way they needed to be asked in order for you to get to that point. So it's really kind of this, we're all co-creating this experience that everybody's beginning to have. And I'm learning and you're learning, they're learning. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful what can take place.
I agree. And what I'm seeing too is those clients that you work with first, what it does is there are things that you'll bring up with them that they're like, oh, hadn't even thought of that. And so then that brings it into their awareness. You do the clearing, but then when we had that conversation, because how QHHT works, for those of you who don't know, or whether it's beyond quantum healing and kind of past life regression, we spend time, like it's a lot of time. I'll sit with a client for two hours and talk about what they want to address, because once you're in theta state, I'm your advocate. I've got to go in. I can't ask you what else you want me to ask. We got to cover all the bases. And what I found is if they've had that energy work done first, their conscious mind in that process, in that interview process, is so much more clear, and their why. Because the very first question I ask is, why are you here? What are you hoping to get out of today? What made you go, I know, I'll sign up for QHHT? And then dive in from there. But I feel like by doing that work with you first, they are much more aware of their goal and of things that maybe they didn't know. And that if they want to deep dive into those things that you've brought up to the surface for them, then I have more that I can advocate for, that I can ask those questions. And because they go under so quickly, we have time to do that. because with QHHT or any kind of regression, we really don't want to keep them under more than 2 hours. Now, like yesterday, I had a client, and the first question we always ask, how do you feel? And how long do you think you've been laying there? Long, short time? She's like, feels like 15 minutes. We were at 2 hours. I took her right up to that 2 hour mark. And also, here's the other thing, by moving that energy, this is what I see when I've got clients that have moved energy first, is that if, clearly not, I'm used to going under. You can say that keyword, I'm like, done. And I could be under for 2-3 hours. It doesn't matter, because my body is used to that energetic exchange and that energetic flow. And where other people are not, like, people are just like going about their daily business, like, I want to do this. And so I feel like, I forgot where I was going with that. There's just more, there's more time for that clarity. There's more time for that awareness. And I can keep a person under, because someone who is high anxiety, who has a lot of built up energy, maybe they can only handle so much of it, and they may not be able to go down for a full 2 hours. So I have to watch their body language, listen to their speech patterns. There's a lot of things that you and I are trained to watch for. And I've had people that I'm like, there's a lot more questions, but they couldn't stay in that state anymore. I needed to bring them out just so they're not sluggish and like, and plus it's just pointless. You're not going to get the information. But I found by doing that work first, they go under quick, they go in, we get to the point, we answer all the questions, and they can be under for the full 2 hours and get the most from their experience, because you're going to pay the same fee, whether it's 10 minutes or you don't get regressed, or you can't get regressed at all, versus the full experience. It's going to cost you the same. So why not go in with a clear mind, clear energy field, and be able to get the most out of your experience and your time?
So when you're working with your clients and they've done both and you bring them back up, the post hypnosis period between how we did it prior to how we're doing it now, what have you sort of seen with the clients that you worked with when they're giving back the feedback? What are they telling you?
First and foremost, they're remembering more. They remember more, and they retain it. Where, when you're in theta state, it's like you're almost in dreamland. And it's like when you wake up, you're like, oh, I just had a cool dream. You remember all of it. And then an hour later, it's gone. And which is why we record sessions for our clients, so they can have that later. But what I have found is the recall and retention is way higher now. And I know there are other theories behind that, like, well, we're just more of an awakened society. We're more open to this. I think it's because the work has been done, and there's a clarity and there's an understanding. And also I believe that by doing that energy work, by clearing the fear, they're more willing to experience more. They're more willing to see more and know that they're not going to come out damaged from it, I guess, by seeing these things.
Yeah, and maybe because we're also activating those the junk DNA strands, and that one strand is for clarity. That's the thing that I find so fascinating, is that DNA strand activation. And if they can go in with their DNA activated, that's sort of been my theory, that maybe that's why they're retaining more, because those that antenna, it is more in tune, and they don't have as much clogging up the engine, sort of like, oh, that was a great experience, and it sort of pulls you down. But that we have, both of us have clients that kept coming back because before it was a much slower process. And yet I'm finding on my end, when we're working together, it's like the people that are contacting me back when we've worked together, it's like, oh my gosh, just doing both of you together, my life has changed. I mean, they're telling me life-changing stories,
Yeah.
where their abundance, that it's not only just the financial aspect, but the relationships have improved. Or maybe they were judging relationships to be bad, but now they have an entirely different perspective of what was going on. And they're like, whoa, this changes everything. I've had clients who are on the verge of divorce actually see each other very different and have come back together again. I mean, it's just mind blowing what takes place. And from my perspective, anyway.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. And just seeing the change for the clients. That's the biggest thing too, is that we are setting the intentions that they are able to recognize those changes. Because sometimes we go about our daily life and we forget that we've done this thing but like just being able to set those intentions for triggers and being able to see things from a higher perspective. And when you have that energy cleared out, you can do that. You can do that. Yeah. And activating the DNA strands. And then also when you remove the negative energy, we're replacing it with positive energy. So we're not missing. And I think that's where especially relationships come in when you see relationships go different direction, just filling in, you say, okay, cool, get away. And then you're removing that energy, but you have to fill it with something positive. Otherwise, you're drawn to the same thing and you keep doing the same pattern. But by doing this, having that clarity going in and not being in that cloud, then you do QHHT after you've been cleared. I guess the realization, what I'm looking for, the clarity that people see and the higher perspective of what they can see, kind of looking down on a situation and be emotionally detached from it in a good way, so they can make more logical decisions on what to do. Where do we go next? When we're talking about things like, especially relationships and where the root cause of the issues are. And if they can go in with more clarity, they're going to be more open to receive those messages when they're under, if that makes sense.
Right. And maybe it's time to move on, but at least they have the clarity of why they came together in the first place. So when they do decide to make, and sometimes it's in the best and highest good for everybody to go ahead. Now I understand why we came together, and it's either time for us to come back together or it's time for us to move on. However, you're going at it from a perspective of strength and peacefulness versus fear and, oh my, the sky's going to fall on us. So you are getting that clarity before that you would probably not have otherwise. So what have you seen when you're doing people? What is kind of the biggest aha thing that I feel like you've had when you're doing this work with your clients that was kind of that maybe either just the mutually, oh, guess what I've learned in all of this, or whatever you want to share, I guess is where I'm going. What was the biggest thing that kind of sticks out in your mind doing this work?
I would say, gosh, that's a tough one, because there's so many things that come to mind that
I
are,
know there's so many that are so great.
um, I feel like the clarity, the conversations that happen prior to the regression are so important. I don't take that for granted at all. And I try to take my time with that. I find that when they come in with that energy work done, they have the clarity to have the conversation, even just to be open to the process and to this, like they already come in step two. They're not coming in as beginners. I don't know what to expect at all. I don't know I'm afraid. All that fear is removed. They're ready to have full on conversations. And as a result, they feel differently when it's all said and done. The result has been, wow. Like, and I think for me, and even then, because I can get them further down, something that I've benefited from, and I always ask permission before. I'll say, hey, if you're under and we get all your questions, you mind if I ask a couple of like scientific questions and see what kind of, if I get the same consistency as what Sally and I get? Always, absolutely. And I've been able to get them under, have those good conversations with their higher self and ask those questions that you would ask me, and I would ask for that clarity, knowing this person has no idea what I'm talking about. So it's not like their conscious mind is going, oh, I read about this once. I think that's been probably my most mind-blowing thing, is that they will confirm things that we've already done some work on, because they are deep enough and there's enough of a trust level there. The fear is gone. They just allow the information to flow through. And I'm able to, and I ask very open-ended questions. It's not like I'm leading questions, but open-ended questions, and they're able
Oh,
to.
yeah. And remember the DNA. You asked about it because I said, we need to activate that junk DNA. And you're like, what are you talking
And I've asked,
about?
and I even said with one of the clients, it wasn't too long after you started doing that with me, I was like, is this a situation like what Sally and I talk about, that maybe we could activate that DNA? They're like, absolutely. I was like, can you do that while I wait? Absolutely. And that particular client got back to me and was like, you're not going to believe how different I feel and how different I see things. The emotion is much more under control. They feel like they had a little more direction in their purpose, and clarity. They had the clarity. Like, it was just, and they didn't even know. And so then I even asked them later, I'm like, hey, do you remember me asking about DNA? They're like, no, I
Oh,
don't.
that's crazy because that third strand of DNA activation, from what we can tell, I mean, who knows? I mean, but it is interesting. We are getting that same information, not just from this one person, but through the different clients that we work with. It seems that DNA three strand activates the clarity, four enhances psychic ability, five enhances interdimensional communication, and then six even telekinesis. And so, you know what might be kind of fun is for you to describe, because I have regressed you prior to doing the DNA activation and afterwards. Maybe you could tell the listeners what your experience was prior to our energy work and what it is like now that we've done it from a person who's actually done the experience of it. I think
So
that would be
what,
interesting.
yeah, absolutely. So what I have noticed, so when we first started doing all the, you would regress me, and we were doing MDH, and while we had MDH going and I was already under, we'd ask all these questions. I have found, and then we got to the process where we're activating DNA, and I actually physically felt it. I physically felt it, whatever they wanted me to feel. I felt something happening. And I, as a result, more going forward, I noticed I had a lot more clarity in even doing QHHT, like with knowing what to ask and what direction to go. I felt like I had in my mediumship. I feel like I was a good medium before. I feel good about that. But I saw things very specifically, like in symbols. You talk about activating all the clairs. So, and every once in a while, I'm like, Sally, you're not going to believe, what just happened. And I've noticed that the information comes in very differently now. It's a lot more effective, a lot more to the point. I see, hear, feel. I've started seeing, like I went and had my eyes checked and everything.
That's
Like,
awesome.
I'm magic, mundane before magical, but I was seeing what I thought were spirit, their light. And I went to my eye doctor. I'm like, oh, you better check this out. Make sure we're good. He's like, yeah, your vision's actually improved and there's nothing wrong with it.
Gosh, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my gosh. And the fact that you felt it, when you were
Physically felt
under
it.
and you physically felt
Mhm.
something happening. Yeah, this work is just, it's so mind-blowing. And I hope everybody listening is at least open to trying. I mean, what have you got to lose, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And QHHT and any kind of past life, the regression, the healing portion of it is going to benefit. There's no question whether if you don't do the energy work ahead of time, there's still going to be benefit to it. But I just feel like it's just if you want the full on experience and like to get the most bang for your buck, do some of that work before. Do some of that work before, um it just, I don't want to say it guarantees, nothing's guaranteed, but it enhances the likelihood of a better experience than what you may have had without the energy work done.
And even for those people who don't need necessarily healing, but just for the experience of doing QHHT, there does seem to be an enhancement. It's almost like I'm not going to say it's color, but I'm just going to use color as an example from my experience. People who are meditators that typically can get into the deep meditative state. And we've worked with people together, you and I, that they are meditators. They didn't necessarily need healing. Their physical bodies, their mind was, just right where it needed to be, but they wanted to have that extra exploration. And what happens instead of seeing things, I'll just use this as a metaphor, but not exactly, it's like watching TV in black and white versus watching TV in HD and high definition colors. Because what's happening, we're actually activating those DNA strands. And I think that's actually made a difference even for them, and, we've got a handful of clients that we've done this with, and it is different. And I don't know how to define it because that's why I'm kind of grasping at straws because it's like they did it before and yeah, it was really great. But then we did it after and it was just like, whoa, it was just like what you were saying. All my clairs are coming in. And the thing about clairs is that we all have them, but we may not think that we have them. Maybe address that.
Yeah, we do. Like all of us have the clairs. We have all the clairs. And we are wired. We are wired to connect to spirit, to the other side. We're wired to get information from our guides. It's just a matter of whether it's in our life path to do so, or if it is something we're willing to work on. And a lot of people, and I will have people come to me and say things like, "Well, what's my clair?" Like I'm not going to tell you what your clair is because you have access to all of them. Who am I to tell you which one you should focus on? Let spirit tell you. Let your guides tell you. Let the universe tell you, however you want to look at it. Let your higher self tell you. It's how you're going to receive information in the moment that you're going to listen to and you're going to pay attention to. And so that's how the clairs work. Basically, the clairs are your senses, your, seeing, tasting, smelling, knowing, feeling, hearing. And so when you have those all open and activated, like I can now receive messages, not just by seeing in my imagination or in my mind's eye symbols and having to break those down. I'm hearing names. I'm knowing things. Like it's different. It's a whole different ball game now that all this is on another level. But yeah, with the clairs, it's just how you're going to receive information when at the time that you're supposed to receive it, and most likely to be able to catch it, and understand it. So yeah, they're all important. All the clairs are important. You just have to learn how to trust them and understand that when that information is coming in, how to process it. But you don't get to necessarily put the parameters on it. You don't get to go, well, I'll only believe in spirit if I hear them say my name.
Yeah, that's definitely a limiting belief. And that's what I work with my people. Let's remove the limiting beliefs because if you have them, it's not that it's not there or not for you. It's because you think that it's not there for you. So it's also about getting out of your own way and just allowing the process to take place. Because I promise all the listeners, you have a superhuman in you. We just have to get in there and ignite it. And you have to be ready. Am I ready to do this? Sometimes you see things like, oh, was that really going on about me? So you do have to kind of be a little bit prepared that what you see in the mirror might be a challenge. And then are you ready to accept it and move on? And this is what your subconscious mind is showing you. But also, one thing that we've learned is that your higher self, the subconscious mind, will protect you. So if you're not ready, it's definitely going to block it. It's not going to let me or even Lorenda even to see anything psychically if you are not ready. And in fact, it takes me when I was first in training and had a person come in who was a volunteer. We got her down and she wanted to know some specific things, and things were going great. And my mentor was sitting next to me. My 12-year veteran mentor was sitting next to me through the training process. And the first thing when we got in and started asking particular questions about a certain thing, the response was, she's not ready for this. We're blocking it. And the 12-year veteran, like, whoa, where did that come from? She had never seen that before. But the subconscious mind, if you are not ready to see certain things, it's absolutely going to protect you. But sometimes they're like, oh, yeah, you need to see this. And you're like, no, I really don't want to see that. No, really, you said, show me the truth. Here it is. I don't want to see the truth. Okay, well, then we'll just go ahead and close it up. And when you decide you're ready, you're ready. And it's very interesting to us when we're sitting on this side, all the things that we've witnessed. Yes, you'll get help if you're ready and wanting for it. But if you're not ready, the higher self will either tell you, yeah, here it is, or it'll say, all right, we'll wait until you are ready. It's really fascinating how this works.
I agree. And also, like, even in my case, my higher self was shut us down. Like when you've said, okay, kind of deep diving in some of my stuff, and my higher self was like, oh, well, there is a reason, but we're not showing her because she's not ready for that. She's not ready to see this. And it's happened with other clients, whether it's MDH, and I've had to say it, or they've said it through me, or it's another client. I've had them say, they're not ready to see this yet. And it's just not, they need to see other things first. They need to see other things first. And that is very important to understand that sometimes, like, you're protected, your higher self, your, however, whatever you want to label it, your oversoul will protect you and only show you what you need and what's going to benefit you for your greatest and highest good in the moment. I've had people come back to me like a year later and go, I'm ready for round 2 because I was able to work on all these things. I just had a client a couple weeks ago that was like, came and did an appointment with me. She had done it. It was like a year and a half ago. And she's like, ooh, guess what all has happened? And I don't remember her session necessarily because I have so many, but I remembered her and I kind of remembered some of the things. And she started telling me, remember this, remember this, remember this. And then how it all played out over the next year and a half was just mind blowing. And then she goes, now I'm ready for phase 2. Like, so for her,
Yeah,
she was
and
ready
it's
for the next.
beautiful. And when they come back, then they're able to go ahead and do the rest of the process. And they just become completely transformed from where they were to where they end up. It's absolutely beautiful.
And also, this was your clients too. This is somebody that you had done work on and sent to me, by the way.
Yay, that's awesome. So let's, I just want to touch real quick. You keep bringing up MDH. That's multidimensional healing. Now that's what I do, but we also do a thing called multidimensional healing by proxy. So for those of you who know Edgar Cayce, he was known as the sleeping prophet. He had over 14,000 medical readings alone that benefited a lot of people around the world. This is sort of what we're getting into. We understood early on that with quantum healing hypnosis, everybody can become Edgar Cayce because going into that theta state, you are accessing the infinite mind, or the subconscious is sort of connected like an internet to the infinite mind or the Akasha, or however you want to label that. a lot of people don't either one want to go and try hypnosis just because of it is time consuming. When you come out, like Lorenda said, it could take up to 2 hours just in the pre-session. And then if you're down for 2 hours, you have 4 hours out of your day. And then as you come out, you need to take some time to reorient yourself because you don't want to just get up out off the couch and run and go drive a car. You do need to have, some time to take some water and just kind of come out of it. And if you don't have that time, we do offer multi-dimensional hypnosis instead of healing by proxy. So we're basically, Lorenda becomes essentially the Edgar Casey of our day, and we can ask a list of questions that you might have, and she answers it. We do record it, and then when we're done, she sends you the recording, and we do ask that you listen to the recording at least 3 times. And when you've done that, you'll have your post session with Lorenda, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to have some questions after that session. It's absolutely beautiful. But that's when she's referring to MDH. That's what we're talking about, multidimensional hypnosis or multidimensional healing, whichever direction you want to go. You want to add to that, Lorenda?
Yeah, I had so many thoughts just then that I was like, because I just kind of recall all the times that we've done the MDH, the multidimensional hypnosis by proxy, and even then, going back to what you're ready to see and what you're not ready to see, I've actually had some examples of when my subconscious is connecting to someone else's subconscious or higher self to higher self. That's how this works. But by proxy, I'm in that theta state, and my higher self is connecting and communicating, right? I will see past lives. But they will only show me what's relevant to the questions that are asked. And I will see the past lives. I'll see why things have played out. I'll see the root cause. And then you ask to have it removed. We do the same thing that we do, like if I was doing QHHT. But what I have found, and we've gotten really great feedback from that. Like we just had a person the other day reach out and be like, you're not going to believe the things that have changed. And I also find that it's important that you not only do you listen to it 3 times, but that your higher self, there will always be nuggets of information in there that make no sense the first time you listen. You're like, what is she babbling about right now? And they make no sense. So, and that's why I say wait 3 weeks, because in that time, the intention was set to give you a nugget that will play out, and you will be able to validate this specific thing that none of us understand what it means right now. But they will also shut you down. They will shut me down. If a person is not ready for a specific healing, they won't let me go in and do it. Or they won't let my higher self go in and do it. I remember we were trying to do some work on someone, and like my voice completely changed. Like I was channeling that man. They were like, he's like, and can we access da da da? No. Like my voice was crazy. It was like my conscious mind was like, what in the world is happening right now? No need to be so aggressive. And like this, you cannot. And you know why? He's not ready. He's not ready for this. He's not willing to do the work. He's He's trying to take the easy way out, and he's not going to change until. I was like, oh, okay, then. All right, then. But I mean, so that person wasn't ready.
Yeah, and I remember that. That was such a wild ride. And that's what's beautiful about this. If there are things, yeah, your privacy's still protected.
It is.
We had no idea why he was shutting us down. He wouldn't tell us. And it's just like, no, he's not ready. Well, do you want to tell us why he's not ready? Nope.
Nope.
So they're going to protect your privacy. So
Well,
we're
and
going to
even
get, and
then,
sometimes we're just getting information that makes no sense to us when we're writing down or talking about the answers, but it makes complete sense to the person listening. Oh, that
yes.
makes sense. And we're like, where did this come from? How does this even apply? Don't worry. And that way, it's really beautiful in the sense that if you have something very private that you don't want anybody to know about, we're not going to know it.
We're not going to
Not
know.
gonna
Yep, I call them spirit HIPAA laws.
have
And
it. Right.
do you remember the one client that we had that there was something that traumatic that had happened and they did not want me to see it because it was going to be triggering for me.
Yes.
My team, I felt this whoosh from behind me. My spirit guides, and this is where, and I had never had this happen before. It's always been higher self to higher self. My spirit team comes in, her spirit team comes in, they huddle up in a little thing. I'm like, I am okay. And I'm back to myself. Remember this? I was like, this is
Yes, I remember.
Lorenda again. And I'm not allowed, my spirit team's there, hers is there. I'm not allowed to see what they're talking about. And then they all went whoosh, and then I was back into that theta level. I was no longer, I mean, I was kind of in and out, but whatever they discussed or whatever healing they did, whatever magic they did was done, and I didn't get to see it. So they were also
Right.
protecting me as a practitioner and as a human.
Right. Right.
So I didn't have to see her business, and I didn't have to know her business, and also protect myself.
Yeah. And that was beautiful. And it worked. It
It
worked.
did.
I mean, yeah, she was better and you're like, cool. And,
Yeah, those
yeah.
conversations,
So,
I love those conversations 3 weeks later. 3 weeks later,
yeah.
then every time they're like, I've been dying to talk to you and then I'm glad I didn't because more happened. And I'm like, yeah, it's like I psychic or something and know this stuff. And the
Right.
conversations are, you about half an hour, 45 minutes. And they kind of say how everything applies. And it's mind blowing because, and I give them the option. They don't have to tell me. I don't need the validation, or as long as they are okay and everything makes sense to them, then that's really all I need to know. But the evidence has been mind blowing as to not just evidence of what was what, but what's been healed, what has changed, and the symbolism that I would see or the things that I would say, how they would actually translate into real life, which is nothing like what my conscious mind would have thought of. So it's just mind blowing how spirit and our higher selves and everything works like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess we should probably wrap it up. We could go on forever. I mean, Lorenda and I could go on forever talking about this stuff and make some more videos later. But hopefully the listener got something out of what we're talking about today. And we ask if you have any questions, join us, contact us. Lorenda, where can they contact you if they want a QHHT session, an MDH session, or maybe they just want a psychic reading or mediumship? Where can they find you?
They can find me at www.spiritmessagesfromtheotherside.com. And I'm the only one that monitors my website. So you can email me through there, contact me through there, and I'd be happy to set something up or have a conversation.
Great. Any last words?
Nope. And also, that's not true. My website, or I'm also on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. That's where my big one is, TikTok. I do a lot of free readings and
See, I knew there was something else that had to come through for you. There you go.
Yeah, and it's Lorenda_car_medium for all of my mediumship social media.
CARR.
Yes.
Car. Yeah. Car with 2 R's. All right. And I'm sallyknopp.com. You can reach out to me there. Text me is the best way to reach me. And also, we both invite you to explore what we have to offer and start to ignite the superhuman in you. With that said, I hope that you will join us in the future. And if you have any questions, reach out. Thank you for watching.